Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of uranium. We'll take a look at it. I'll give you my financial opinion. And here we go. Here comes the charts. This is the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, and we are right in the tip of this bad boy. I could actually move this up like that. We're right at the tip. We got to see which way we want to break here. Uranium itself, the physical price, hasn't moved up or down that much. It's been basically going sideways. The stocks themselves, the mining companies, have been drifting lower with the overall market. So I think we need uranium to get its butt in gear and move on up if we want to see the mining companies go up. So I do think it's tied to the price of uranium. If uranium goes nowhere, it's going to be tied to the price of the overall market. That's kind of my view on it. And we'll see if that changes over time. URNM getting a little bit more sell-off today. We're coming back within this pattern. I thought we were ready to break. Had nice small little compact down days. That usually means that we're going to head higher, but we couldn't muster the buying pressure to do it. So we came back inside this sideways pattern. Bannerman's getting a little bit of buying pressure today. Still overall though, we have broken to the downside of this longer term uptrend line. So we could see a further pullback. We could go higher. Guys, I know it sounds like I'm indifferent here, but the valuations are good. And the short term is the hardest part to read. We have a bullish engulfing pattern right here. So what that means is usually that resolves itself higher, but we've been drifting lower with the overall market. If the overall market continues lower, I think this will drift sideways. It'll either go sideways to slightly lower like that. If uranium gets its butt in gear and the overall market kind of finds a bottom, a short-term bottom, I think we're going up, going higher. So we've got mixed signals here. The market's dragging it down, in my opinion. We've got a bullish engulfing. It's right here. This is usually a pattern to move on up, statistically. And just because we drift lower a little bit doesn't mean that this is invalid. I don't see any reversal patterns here saying that we're either going lower or higher. It's just kind of drifting with the overall market. GVXXF has a lot of this has the same type of patterns, and we're just kind of drifting sideways to lower in a lot of them, just like GoviAx is here. Global Atomics drifting lower, and we could drift even lower than where we are today, depending on the overall markets. If uranium's not going anywhere, the physical price, we could drift a while sideways to lower, and we're seeing that in a lot of the stocks. We're seeing this kind of drifting lower with the overall markets. Pure Point Uranium, this actually is a reversal hammer candlestick pattern to move on up, or at least go sideways, sideways to higher. We have another candlestick hammer pattern yesterday for deep yellow, small little down day today, but mainly just drifting sideways. So that's holding up. Paladin Energy's holding up by drifting sideways. Yeah, small down day today, but still doesn't look horrible. Sky Harbor looks good, a little bit of an up day, right on support. So it's finding support at support. Next Gen Energy isn't finding support, and it's pulling on back with a pretty strong closing to the downside. Looking out, this is our support line, and we're dropping out of that support. So we'll see where we end up next week with Next Gen Energy. Canalaska's also selling off. We're right above the support line, so we'll see if that holds. Baseload's been chopping sideways. We've got good support through here, but you know what? If it keeps knocking on this support, it'll eventually break down through that support line, and the buyers won't be able to hold it if they can't hold it. Fission 3.0 is right at support. It was up a little bit today. One of the few that were up. Fission Uranium, a little bit below this support line. We're playing with it a lot. We could break to the downside and have a little bit larger pullback with the overall markets. If the overall markets decide to pull back, I would think that this is going to follow. It looks like we're not getting the strong buying pressure. Camco breaking through its long-term support to the downside, finishing and closing quite strong to the downside. So we could see more downside on Camco. Kazatomprom, KAP, down a little bit today. We're right at support, just riding it sideways. Looking at Peninsula, NMF, riding it sideways. I mean, yeah, a little bit of a down day today, but it's basically sideways and we're above support. Boss Energy bouncing off support yesterday to the upside, 6.24%. We've got Lotus Resources bouncing sideways, basically a flat day today. UROY bouncing. We're still in this pattern going sideways. Encore Energy putting in a bullish hammer pattern. Hopefully we can head higher and bounce off the support that we have underneath it. UU, heading on lower, finishing quite low. We do have support down here below it. Looks like we may come back and try to revisit that support. URG heading a little bit lower. Looks like it's going to figure out where it's going to head for that support there. UEC heading lower, coming back into the pattern. LEU heading lower, following the overall market. A lot of these are just following the overall market, heading lower. Heading lower with LTVR. Overall market dragging it down. It's held up quite well for what it is compared to some of these other companies. ISO Energy holding up okay. We're still above the support lines. Appia bouncing sideways up just a little bit today. Denison Mines, we're not getting the buying pressure. We had nice, good buying pressure all through here, and then we just kind of got stopped, and we've been moving sideways to lower with the overall markets. Blue Sky Uranium moving sideways. Forum Energy Metals moving sideways to slightly lower, just bouncing. Enfield moving sideways. Laramide moving lower and quite strongly lower and finishing strong to the downside. So we could see more downside out of this. Looks like it's breaking this upward rising wedge to the downside. If I were to throw a kind of projection on this, what I do is I take about the opening here, and then I grab it, and I put it like on here. I mean, we could go all the way back and do a retest here, guys. It's probably going to be somewhere like, it'd be like almost a complete retest back to this support line if we get a large overall market pullback, if that were to happen. Western Uranium getting sold off today, a little more selling pressure there. UEXCF, more selling pressure, bearish engulfing. We could head lower here, guys. We're right at resistance too. And then Mega Uranium getting sold off today, breaking to the downside. So it looks like we've got some sellers. The overall market, just to step in here and do like the S&P 500. The S&P 500, I've got this coming lower. It is going lower here, and we'll see how well this correlates. We do have a little bit of support right where it's at. We'll see if that holds. The NASDAQ, a little bit lower today. It's right at the bottom of this bouncing point last time. So we'll see what happens here. These charts do not look stellar for the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. They look pretty poor. And if we head lower, I mean, the possibility is there that uranium goes with it. Now, it's a possibility. It doesn't mean that it's 100%. Holy crap. Hold on. We got Roku here down 22%. What happened there? Look at that. Absolute domination to the downside here, guys. It broke. I'm just looking at this because I know it's uranium, but I saw Roku. It broke to the downside, and it is definitely heading lower. A lot of these are heading lower in the tech sector. So again, guys, we could head lower. I'm riding it. I'm not going to sell my shares. I'm going to continue to buy when I see bottoms. That is my strategy. Why am I doing that? Because this can turn on a dime. And historically, uranium and all these other commodities have gone up with interest rates. Inflation and then interest rates, you'll see a sell-off in the overall markets. The dollar gets a little bit stronger as people convert their stocks into dollars, and then they go and they buy commodities usually next. So the cycle, and this may take some time. It's not like, it doesn't just do this. It takes time for all this money to flow around and move. And usually you start seeing the overall markets get a little bit weak. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ, interest rates are going up before it. And then money starts to rotate over into commodities. It just takes time. And that's what I try not to predict these things and try to get it to the nth degree, because that's where you get in trouble. Because when you get it wrong, you get caught out of a stock and it moves 20% in a day or something like that. I just don't want to deal with it. It's like stay in it, ride it, and not have to worry about it. So that's kind of my viewpoint. And am I down in some of my positions? I am, and some of the ones that I recently put in. Some of them I'm down, just like everyone else. I know some people, they say, "Oh, it's easy when you're up," but whenever you start a position, in whatever company it is, it's going to oscillate. And the further into time that you get away from that original position, if you have good fundamentals and good ratios and good market balances, it'll work over time. You just got to take some time. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.